There were 5 members in Josh's family. They had just moved into a new house. One evening, while Dalton was sitting on the stairs to play, the door opened automatically. The boy seemed to be attracted to something. So he went upstairs to turn on light. The ladder suddenly broke, so he fell down. After standing up, he saw a dark figure in the dark. Like seeing something scary, he shouted. After Josh and his wife ran up, Dalton was only slightly wounded. But the next day, no matter how Josh called, his son didn't wake up. The doctor said Dalton was fine, but he still wasn't awake. Medically, it was called a plant man, so the doctor could only give up. Josh and his wife helplessly took their son home to take care of him. After 3 months, Dalton's health was still not getting better. And in the house, many strange things happened. There was always a man's voice in the eavesdropping device. Their son said that there were strange people in the house. In the evening, Renai told her husband what had happened in the morning. But Josh presumed that she was so stressed that she hallucinated. At that moment, there was a frantic knock on the door downstairs. Josh went downstairs to check it out. As he left, Renai heard a woman's cry. She went to her daughter's room to check and saw a man beside the cradle. Josh heard his wife scream, so he immediately ran up. But the man disappeared. Rena insisted this wasn't her hallucination. At that time, the home security alarm suddenly rang for no reason. Josh ran downstairs and saw the door, which was already locked, was open. Renai also brought her 2 children into Dalton's room. The whole family experienced a terrible night. The next day, when Renai was changing Dalton's bed sheet, she saw there was a bloody handprint on the bed. One night, after Josh got home, Rena started to criticize him that Josh was always working overtime recently, and left her to face it all. She didn't allow Josh to sleep in bed that night. In the middle of the night, she suddenly woke up, and saw a man in the room who rushed towards Renai. Her scream woke Josh up. Josh ran into the room, but he didn't see anything. Renai really couldn't stand this situation, so she really wanted to move elsewhere. Because he loved his wife, he agreed to Renai's request. The next day, they moved to a new house, but disturbing paranormal events didn't finish. By contrast, they were scarier and scarier. Looking through the window, she saw a child dancing in her house. And when she went to look for things in the closet, someone jumped out that made her scared stiff. So she invited a pastor to her house. Josh got home and found this scene quite angry. He thought that it was a storm in a teacup. Josh's mother, Lorraine, also came to their house. She said she also saw a ghost in the house. There was a demon standing behind Josh. The 3 were very terrified. They didn't know what was going on. At that moment, they heard thrashing from Dalton's room. But when they raced, they found it was ransacked. And Dalton was lying on the floor. After witnessing this, Lorraine called his friend, Elise. The next day, Elise's paranormal investigators, Specs and Tucker, went to Josh's house. While they were taking pictures around the house, there were 2 girls in the picture. They immediately called Elise. Then Elise came to Josh's house. She is considered as the most important character in this series. After watching Insidious, a lot of viewers said just seeing Elise made them feel safe. She went into the room and looked around. She discovered something unusual on the ceiling, and immediately asked her coworker to draw a picture. Based on her description, Renai grabbed it to watch. It was indeed the red-faced demon just now. Elise said the married couple that there was no connection between this house and that demon. Its target was Dalton. Dalton was not in a coma, he had the ability to astral travel. And such people could travel in the spirit world. Currently Dalton's soul was lost, and was taken to another world called the Further. The link between soul and body was getting weaker and weaker. So the boy was in a coma. And the demon always desired to use Dalton's body. If they didn't seek his soul quickly, he would stay in the Further forever. And the demon would use Dalton's body to revive again. After hearing this, Renai completely believed. Because she saw these terrible things with her own eyes. But by contrast, Josh thought that Elise played a prank on them. So he kicked her out of his house. After Elise left, Josh went to Dalton's room and saw his son's drawings before he fell into a coma. In one of the pictures, there was the red-faced demon that Renai saw. At that moment, Josh believed what Elise said. Immediately he called to ask her to come back. The next day, Elise and her coworkers arrived to Josh's house. After they set up equipment, Elise performed a seance to communicate with Dalton. The boy said that he was captured and couldn't run away. Elise tried to find a way to help Dalton, but she couldn't. At that moment, Dalton, who was lying on the bed, suddenly moved. During the seance, the demon briefly possessed Dalton's body. All equipment was damaged. Countless kinds of demons in the house slowly appeared and attacked them. When everyone can't resist anymore, Elise held tightly Dalton to expel the demon from him. The room was normal again. Then when they watched the pictures taken, they knew that Dalton was always controlled by the demon. Elise knew that the demon was too strong, so she called Lorraine back. It turned out that Dalton had the ability to astral travel not by chance, but by genetics from his father. When Josh was young, he also often unconsciously used this ability. And he had been stalked by a black spirit. Based on the picture that Lorraine showed, the parasitic spirit of an evil old woman was always by Josh's side and closer and closer. At last, Lorraine had to meet Elise to block his ability and suppress his memory. So that demon didn't get his wish. The only way to rescue Dalton was for him to go into the further and save him. But it was dangerous. Could his soul be lost? To save his son, he agreed without hesitation. After saying goodbye Renai, Elise put Josh in a trance. Josh's soul left his body and followed Elise's instructions. He slowly entered the further in the state of being a soul. He finally saw the ghosts at his previous house. They scared him to sweat. Now he just knew so many ghosts to lurk around him. He went to the attic and saw a red door. He ran into a white-faced figure. Because he was the main character, he defeated it by a palm. After entering the door, he found out Dalton. But at the same time, the red-faced demon noticed them. Josh cradled Dalton and quickly ran away. The ghosts appeared to stop them. Following Elise's instructions, Josh finally brought his son back. He let Dalton go first. And he stayed to stop the red-faced demon. But he encountered the old woman that haunted him as a child. Unexpectedly, after many years, it still didn't leave. But this time Josh was no longer afraid. He loudly shouted at her, "Stay away from me." The ghost gradually dissolved into darkness. And the demons outside still chased him. They appeared in droves and wanted to take over his body. While the ghosts were surrounding Josh, the red-faced demon chased Dalton's soul. Fortunately, the boy's spirit returned to his body in time, and he woke up. But just when the ghosts were about to invade Josh's body, at the key moment, Josh's soul returned to his body, and the ghosts also disappeared. Finally, his family reunited. If you think the movie ended like this, then you underestimate this movie. After Elise completed her quest, while packing her equipment, she realized something strange about Josh. She gently took out her camera and took a picture of Josh. Suddenly he got mad and strangled Elise to death. When coming back, Renai found her dead, and she picked up the camera that fell on the ground and watched. She was horrified to see the photo. It turned out Josh didn't come back. Josh was possessed by the evil woman from his dreams. When Renai still was horrified, Josh's voice rose, and his hand put on her shoulder.